Welcome, everyone, to Read the Book First. Today, I'll be talking with my friend Delaney. Is back.
I say bonjour.
If you did not get by the French that Delaney just dropped, we were talking about Madeline, also the title of the podcast. But anyway, so we're talking about Madeline, our classic, like one of my favorite books as a kid. Both book and movie. Like rereading and rewatching these, I was like, this is a big chunk of my personality.
The lore.
Yes. I don't know. I must have been my sixth or seventh or not birthday, Christmas. I got all the Madeline books in a big like chunky collection and a Madeline doll that had like a little like not house, but like those like cheapo kind of like doll containers that looked like a
Yeah.
house, but it
Mhm.
was the house with the vines. And I got like one other Madeline thing, and my mom, had her big camcorder out, and she was like, "You're gonna say when I say go, you're gonna say I'm mad for Madeline." And like I like loved Madeline, so I legit loved the presents. I did not understand that mad, like I'm so mad for that. I didn't understand that connotation of like I love it so much. I thought it meant like I'm angry. Then I got so upset. I was like, Mom, I like the presents. And then it saw shit this can't like well, actually that probably doesn't exist anymore, but there once was a tape that had me almost in tears saying, I'm mad for my life.
Okay, I don't think I was that hardcore. Oh my gosh.
I think that year I read all the Madeline books and like was obsessed, obviously. And then there was that TV show, was it on PBS Kids?
I think yes.
Or
I
like the
think I vaguely
Canadian
remember
version
this.
of it. I think it was the Canadian version that came on our channels on like Saturday. Because there's the Saturday or Sunday.
Yes. I vaguely remember this, and I'm trying to think, was it like the same channel that had Caillou or something?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, yeah. PBS. Okay. Yes, I think I remember this vaguely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the plot to this book. Like it had been so long. I knew I loved it, but I was like, I knew the old house covered in vines and then, Madeline, but I couldn't even remember what yeah. It'd been a
I
minute.
I remember obviously the intro, because the intro, the rhyme is like perfect and it's just iconic. And then the rest of it, I think I thought more happened in this book, but that's because again I had like all the books chunked up, so I would read all of them at once.
Exactly. I also thought that more happened in the original one. And I'm kind of regretting because the librarian up here was like, oh, I also have Madeline's Rescue, and then I can't remember what the other one was, and I'm like, oh no, I just need the original book. Like, no worries. But now I wish I would have checked the other ones out too.
I was thinking the same thing, and I was looking to see if they had it like digitally, and there's like a 6 week hold on all of them digitally on my library, and I was like, whatever's mom got their kid Libby on their iPad, that iPad kid's hooked up.
I don't feel like I don't know. As a child, I wouldn't have wanted to read that in a digital format. Like, huh?
Yeah, it was like six
Whatever.
weeks. Okay, library.
Oh well.
Yeah,
I mean, it would have been helpful for the movie, but whatever.
yeah, yeah. It's all good. The book is straightforward. Plot, like, is there,
Is there a
it's
plot?
well, with like with most kids' books, it's like there's a bare minimum plot, or it's like about learning how to read, like the chicka chicka boom booms of the world. So this one is in the plot, loosely quotation marked plot world. But what stands out to me is the illustrations of this book. I love the art style.
I really love the art, and I love how simple it is, and yet how like you could really feel the scenes. I think especially the rain in front of Notre Dame. That one is probably one of my faves.
That one's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the style that Ludwig, how do you say his last name? I even looked it up a second ago. Bemelman?
I think it's Bemelmans.
Bemelmans.
Bemelmans. I also looked it up
Bemelmans.
because I realized I had no idea.
Yeah, he's Australian, or not Australian, Austrian.
Austrian.
I don't know how to speak that or the pronunciations. I looked at this and I was like, this isn't French. I can't pretend I speak French because
I don't think Ludwig is, or is it Ludwig?
it's probably
No, I think
Ludwig.
yeah.
Anyways, He uses a pen and the how do you pronounce it? The Gouce paint. It's like kind of like watercolor almost. Gouache is how I say it in my head. I do not know if that's right.
I remember talking about this in art class, and I can't even think of it at the moment. But
I'm looking it up right
um,
now because my brain. Gouache paint. I also spelt it wrong just then. It's Gouache.
it's like gouache or no
Wash.
Gouache.
gouache. Okay, yes, I think yes, that's right. Sure,
So gouache
gouache.
paint. Now that we know
Yes.
that, the art, like we were saying earlier, it is very simplistic, except for whenever they're by a French, or a Parisian like architecture, like iconic area, like Eiffel Tower on the cover, and Notre Dame. They go to the Versailles. There's a few other what the opera something.
Is it Versailles or is it the Louvre? So there's a list in the back, and I don't even remember. I'm sure that was in there, in the copies I had, but I never looked at it.
Oh, I absolutely
Um,
did not look at it. I was like, I don't care this exists real place because didn't understand at that time that Paris was Paris.
I think I like this was probably before my Paris obsession, or probably where it came from, but I didn't realize it. Yeah.
You're correct.
Um,
They do not mention Versailles.
I think it was the other one is like because the Louvre is, it's
Yeah.
like a palace. So,
Yeah.
um, and then there was the Luxembourg Gardens
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, the opera though is the other big one too. That was like pretty. That one's very very fancy.
Yeah. So I went to Paris once and we were there like I think 3 nights maybe. I loved it. I loved the experience, everything we did there. I before going on that trip, we also before then were in London. And I had spent more time prepping for like the London aspect because I was also in the middle of my English degree. So like I was like Shakespeare, I was full in. But I now wish, well, one, I want to go back to Paris. But two, want to go back to Paris and take my time because like any movie that takes place in Paris, like I love. Like I recently just watched an American Paris for the first time in like over 10 years. And then I like the night before I watched Madeline and I was like, hey, it's
Yeah.
Parisian movie weekend. Yeah, but you lived in Paris, right? For
For like basically 6 months.
Mhm.
That was I got the longest visa that I could get for my situation. I was in college though. So I saved up my online classes because my mom was living there.
Mhm.
So she was there for I think a little over 2 years. And
Mhm.
then I yeah, I didn't want to give up my scholarship. So um I saved up online classes and then I took a semester where I lived in Paris, but I took my classes online.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you really consider that study abroad. I was studying and I was abroad, but I wasn't like going to university there. So
I feel like
I don't,
it counts.
it's, yeah,
You were living in Paris for
it's,
a semester and you were taking classes.
yeah,
Yeah.
just, so
Yeah.
I do like, I think I visited a lot of places and I know I experienced a lot of Paris. I also don't feel like I did enough. And I don't think you could spend a lifetime in Paris and really like there's just it's not even that big of a city, but there's
Mhm.
just so much. Like
It's so dense,
so
like
dense.
not overly. Like it's not like I don't feel claustrophobic. Like in parts
No.
of Rome, I felt claustrophobic because it's also an older city that is dense, similar to Paris is. But in Paris, I did not feel claustrophobic, and I don't know why.
It's just like I don't know, there's just so much hidden stuff that, like even after I'd gone to all of the major sites, there'd be more things that I'd start to get into, or I'd be like reading in literature or in movies and stuff. I'm like, I gotta go find that. And so
Mm,
yeah, I think it's like a hard thing of, you know, you want to do as much as you can. And I do think the downside of living there was like, oh, I'll have time to do that. Like when
hmm
I visited the first time when I was 16, I had 10 days and we did so much in those 10 days and I like really packed it in. And then I almost feel like when I lived there, I probably did more just because of the time, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's, I don't
No,
know. But I love it as a city. It's
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
And I feel like when you read like the illustrations of Madeline, like I think are like yes, the touristy spots, like because of the big iconic spots, but also it's illustrated and written by someone who also loved Paris and who was not Parisian, you know? So I feel like you can like, which is like, it's just a kid's book, but you do get that from the illustrations. Like, is there like a lesson learned in the story? No, this is about a spunky little girl who goes to private school and they have to walk in two straight lines. And they have matching cute outfits and hats and
Yes.
umbrellas. And they are happy when they see good things, and they're mad when they see bad things, and they're sad when they see sad things. Did you catch what they were sad at?
The soldier.
A
So is it
soldier.
Hotel de Invalides, which is like, I think, I don't, so the time setting here,
Hmm.
this was written right before the war. So it wasn't World War II, so World War One?
So yeah, it was published in 1939. So the author is from Austria. He himself was a spunky guy who was sent to boarding schools and kept getting kicked out. Eventually he ended up working at a hotel, which is like kind of inspired part of the like private school vibe that his uncle owned, and the head waiter there like was abusing him. And he was like, if you hit me again, I'm going to shoot you. And then the guy abused him and he shot him and injured him. He didn't kill him. But then his parents, I know this is wild, right?
This is some, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then his parents were like, okay, you can either go to this really strict boarding school, like military boarding school, or you can go to America. And he's like, I'm going to America. And so he
Options.
Mhm. Yeah. And so he went to America right before World War One broke out. He joined the US military after he became a citizen, but they did not send him abroad because he was Austrian and lived in Germany a lot. And so they're like, could be a spy or whatever. And then so he, I don't know, did army shit in America, whatever that was then, and he became an illustrator. But a lot of his childhood obviously impacts Madeline as a character, but also as like the setting. And he spent some time in Paris and loved it, you know. So that's why Paris.
Yeah, that's why I was like, because I think that location, I can't remember like all the timeline for it, but it was at one point, I think it was a hospital and like place for veterans, like
Hmm.
possibly military hospital. It's where Napoleon's buried, or
Yeah,
that's the tomb now.
yeah.
So that's what I was kind of wondering, like, oh, is it like they walked by the military hospital and is this World War One,
I think it
maybe?
probably is set during like towards the end of World War One or
Yeah.
like the recovery of World War One, right? Which I think makes sense, which is different from the movie, but we'll talk about that once we get to it. Um, but when I like rereading this, like I've never caught what they were sad at. I think as a kid I just saw like an injured person, but then in my head, like rereading that, I was like, oh, it's a an injured soldier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, hmm. But
Yeah.
we have the smallest girl is Madeline, and she's also the bravest. She doesn't care about what she's not scared of mice. She poo-poos at the tiger. What does that mean?
It's just like, like, oh, you're not scary. Like, oh, I don't
Like
know. It's very French sounding,
it's
though.
a very French word, but it's like what an American TV show would pretend the French exchange student is saying.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Like kind of like, ooh la la is how, you often see that with stuff in relation to French or Paris, like ooh la
Hmm.
la.
Hmm.
Except I don't know. My French did not get better living in France, really. But one thing I did pick up is that it's ah la la.
Hmm.
It's not ooh la la. It's kind of more of like a like people say it after something not necessarily distressing, but I don't know, could be used towards an American.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, American, so dumb. Ah la la. Like I don't know.
Like I did not take French in high school, and so I knew like bonjour, like merci, and then I know je ne sais pas, which sounds like je ne sais pas,
Ah.
and it's I don't know, and I
Yeah.
love that je ne sais pas. I don't know. Je ne sais pas. So I don't know. I always like as a kid, I always like saw her being like poo poo at the tiger. I was like, are you like, yes, another point is to show how brave and spunky Madeline is. But I'm like, as a kid, the like animal lover kid that I was like, the tiger's in a cage. Why are you poo pooing him?
Have some sympathy for this, this poor
Yeah.
tiger.
The little
I
like
think
animal rights Janessa.
I think it's just like more so that like all of the little girls are scared of the tiger, and she's like, I'm not scared of you, which like you would be if he wasn't in a cage.
Is Madeline a pick me girl?
That's the question.
It's like she's a cross between a tomboy and a pick me girl, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know. But then they have the nun teacher. Also, as a kid, I think a confusion I had was I thought they were all orphans in this book because she has red hair, right? So therefore also Annie, who has red hair, is an orphan. So in my head, I was like, redheaded girl, orphan.
Some of the illustrations, it's actually kind of confusing because some of them he's not using as much color. So then she's
Mhm.
blonde
Mhm.
or brunette. So then I did have to go back and I was like, wait a minute, is she a redhead? Because that's how I remember her. And then I
Mhm.
found, on the cover, obviously, and then at the zoo, she
Mhm.
has red hair. I was like,
And then the
okay,
TV show, and then on all the like
yeah,
merchandise. Yeah. So
right.
it's in the first book, I think it's less definite, but also because some of it is just ink on yellow paper, you know.
It's more so just like the limited color scheme, and I don't think the hair was as important to the character as it became like once it was more of a known character.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Um,
but yes, Miss
but
Clavel.
Miss Clavel, the nun, who is frightened by Madeline and the something is not right. So just like the sixth sense, which like, if you were a live-in teacher, you'd also get a sixth sense. Like,
Not like Miss Clavel does not get paid enough for this. Like she's
absolutely
got
not.
Madeline walking on the bridge over a busy, I'm assuming it's the Seine, but it's like,
Hmm.
over a busy waterway. Like poor Miss Clavel,
Yeah.
you know.
Uh, and then something is not right, and the fact is Madeline's appendix needs to be taken out. And this instilled within me the biggest fear that my appendix would explode for my whole childhood until I probably was a teenager. I was like, stomachache, it's the end of the world, it's an appendix. Mom, it's my appendix. And she goes, no, it's in the middle of your stomach. That is not where your appendix is. You're fine. You just ate too much, whatever, you know? But
Yes.
eventually, I just want to say I was hanging out with my cousin when we were like 13 or 14, and he started like complaining about this pain in his side, and we were like running around in the woods. So I just thought he was like, when you run too much, sometimes it's hard to breathe. He kept on crying and crying once we got home, and my dad finally like told him to go like home to his mom up the road to his house, and his mom wasn't there. And so I was like, Dad, we need to take him somewhere. So we took him to the ER, and his appendix had ruptured. Yeah, it was scary. But anyways, but as a kid, it was like, I'm gonna have my appendix ruptured. I'm gonna fall into quicksand. Like those are the two biggest worries I had, like about the world at large.
So this book, and I was a big Curious George fan, and there was one of them where Curious George swallows a puzzle piece, I think it is, and he has to go to the hospital, and they like have to go do surgery to remove the puzzle piece. And so like in my mind, those were like the two big things facing, appendicitis, swallowing a foreign object, which actually that's probably true, but
Yeah. The
yes.
two biggest issues in childhood.
Two biggest issues in childhood, those are how you end up in the hospital for sure. Um, but I think that also, like, because I was obsessed with medicine, like, I'm sure that also having those stories was like, oh, now my character in this game has to have their appendix out.
All the Barbies are suddenly in the hospital.
They're all suddenly in. Yeah, yeah.
She goes to the hospital, she gets it removed, and then she has to stay there for 10 days. I mean, which makes
Which,
sense. This is the 30s.
yeah.
Like
Or earlier, perhaps,
or yeah, but like That's shocking. Because I remember my mom telling me when she got her tonsils out, she had to stay overnight by herself. And it was like she told me it was like it was so scary, but I got ice cream. And then I had to get my tonsils out and I like remember being terrified because I was like, Mom, you had to stay overnight by yourself. And she goes, well, don't worry, you're not staying overnight. And I didn't because it was by that time out in the early 2000s. It was fine. But you know, 10 days, this poor girl. But Miss Clavel and all the kids come to say, like, greet her. And then she has a ton of presents from Papa, mysterious Papa.
Which is when I realized, I was like, oh, she's not an orphan because her dad sent her, like, oh, this is a boarding school. And
Mm-hmm.
because again, I was thinking Orphan Annie, like, she
Yep.
doesn't have parents. So that was kind of different from what I remembered for sure.
Yeah, that it shocked me. I was like, Papa? Who's Papa? Where is he?
Yeah. And
Um,
suddenly they're all like wealthy little girls that, you know,
and
yeah.
it's less endearing. I'm like,
It a little bit, yeah. It's not like,
just
oh,
slightly,
yeah.
it's yeah, it's like the Disney thing where like this main character can't have parents, to have a quote interesting story, whatever. But anyways,
Of course.
she has all these presents, but what's really cool is her scar. And I'm like, that is such a little kid move.
For sure.
Like, absolutely. She's still at the hospital recovering, and the next night, Miss Clavel says something is not right. And then all the other girls are crying because they want their appendix taken out too, because they also want presents.
And a cool scar.
Yeah. And that's the end of the story.
Yes. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's all there is. There's
Which
not anymore.
like the story, like it's a weird, kids' stories, their plot, timelines are obviously shorter than a normal chapter book or longer novel, obviously. And I think it's fine for what it, like plot wise. I think what makes this book is so special, I think, besides the nostalgia factor, it's just the art style and then the opening like 5 to 10 pages with the rhymes. It's just like this makes my brain smile.
No, that was I read the book to Eric before we watched the movie because I was like, I don't know if you ever read this one. And he was like, I think my grandma had it, but like it was obviously more important to me as a book. But I read the opening. He's like, wait, go back and read that. Like that was cool. Like, yeah,
It's
I think that's the hook that gets people into it. Like,
The
yeah.
rest, who cares what happens later?
Yeah.
Whatever. It's a
I
medical
could
drama.
remember the plot, I kind of forgot all about that, but I remembered the opening and that was what stuck with me. So no, I agree though. I think the art is, that's really, there was a lot of the scenes that I forgot about. And then of course, going back after having been to Paris, like I probably had not read this book since then,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, I recognize these places and it captures it so well. And just, yeah, I think it's definitely an iconic
Yeah,
children's book for sure.
I absolutely. And like I am interested in reading the other ones now, especially after rewatching the movie. But yeah, I really enjoyed the book. A few other little fun facts. The author's wife's name is Madeline, and his daughter was also known to be a spunky girl, and so like he used his daughter and his wife as inspiration for the character, Madeline. And then when he was once in the hospital where he really got the actual idea for this book, he was in the hospital where he saw the crack in the wall that looked like a rabbit. And then there was a girl next to like the bed next to him who was there for an appendix. And that's where he got the idea. So
Ah, okay. I think I
supposedly.
had read that somewhere. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's
Before we get into the actual like the 1998 movie adaptation, I did send Delaney, and she already watched this, but the 1952 at cartoon adaptation version, and you can find it on the Internet Archive website, which is a really cool website if you're into historical nerdy books and movies and stuff. But I accidentally sent you the Spanish one and then I opened it a second later and I was like, this is in Spanish. But I was like, but also I was proud of myself because I'm working on Duolingo and I could understand most of it, but also I was like, Janessa, you also just read the English version, so you're translating it via memory.
I opened it too and I couldn't play it yet, but I scrolled down. I was like, oh, it's in Spanish. was like, I could probably figure it out. Like, I don't speak Spanish, but I know the
Yeah.
book, so I get the idea.
For half a second, I was like, I'm fluent. And I'm like, no, you just have the other book memorized.
Whatever, it's fine.
Whatever. But there is an English version. It's essentially line by line the same, but I think this what differences that stuck out to me is that the coloring is different. So like the nun outfit is red. Um the girls' outfits are also different. Madeline's brunette. They skip the sad part where they don't say that they're sad when they see sad stuff. Um, Also, Miss Clavel speaks French when she's not speaking lines from the book, but then when she speaks lines from the book, it's it's like suddenly English.
With the French accent.
Yes, the 1952 short was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Short. It lost to a Tom and Jerry film called Joanna Mouse, where Jerry is cross-dressing as a female mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I was like, oh, it was like nominated, but it lost to Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry. No, I thought it was really cute, and it really did follow the book. I think there was a little bit in there that it added, but I think it made it better because the book just kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, like it filled in some holes there.
Yeah, like
where it made
Madeline
the
flies
story.
away on a balloon almost. Like that was cute. Like there's
Yeah.
like the other adults are also speaking French, but like in the background, it felt fuller. But
It was really cute.
yeah. But the real movie we're talking about is the 1998 Madeline. And I rewatching this, I was watching it with Isaac, and he's like, I've never seen this. Well, he came in halfway. He's like, what's the plot of this movie? I'm like, you don't have to worry about the plot. You're fine. There's a girl. It's Dennis the Menace, but girl and French.
No, I think we were like watching it and getting in, and I was kind of thinking like we've already pretty much covered the book for the most part. Like I don't really remember what the whole movie is about.
Hmm.
Like again, it had been so long, probably early 2000s was the
Hmm.
last time that I watched this, and could not remember for the life of me the plot.
This is one of the library movies that I continually checked out. It was like this one, and then I would go and I would get Matilda, and then I would get My Girl, and then I would get Madeline. Like those are the three for probably a couple of years. Whenever my mom was like, "Okay, you get to check out the movie this time," I'd be like, "Okay, we're getting Madeline." Like we didn't own it, but I watched it all the time.
Yeah.
And I remembered a lot more than I thought. But I did forget at least that the first book's plot ends like 10 minutes into the movie. Yeah,
Well, other than the appendicitis, right?
that's at the very beginning.
Oh, I guess that is early on.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I
it's
mean,
like,
I feel like there's a little bit more filler, but it's
oh
still
yeah,
basically, yeah, like pretty much we're through the book, and
yeah,
that's
yeah. So this technically includes Madeline, Madeline's Rescue, Madeline and the Bad Hat, and Madeline and the Gypsies are the books it covers, which are the main books. He did write a couple other ones, and then his grandson took over the book series later on that kind of got mass produced to like little chapter books and stuff. But those are the ones that are the plots that are taken and like messed with a bit. The movie's intro, I could watch it over and over.
that's my first note is I love the illustrations coming to life. Like it was such a great way to like bookend the yeah.
Yes. It sets the vibe. It's like, remember this book that you've probably read? Well, now it's going to be a movie, but like, it's like we're taking this vibe, we're making it real. Like, Paris is a real place. Like, I loved it.
Good way if you're going to do live action from what
Hmm.
is like just illustration and previously been cartoon, that it just you can bring it to life but not abandon the illustration part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also like that it begins like we have a voiceover. But it also the first thing we see of Madeline is that she's running behind and she's missing her hat. So like it's just immediate characterization where like we have this girl and she's just a little bit not different, just but different, you know, just like,
Not falling in line with all the other girls, like
yeah, literally.
literally not falling.
And I love the voiceover of the book text at the beginning with the like showing them doing all the actions through Paris. I think it's a great way to like set the scene, especially for like Americans who are like, what is Paris? You know, like it sets the scene, it sets like the like mood and the vibe and the tone. I just the beginning, I could it's 10 out of 10. And like even like the little touches, like her Madeline stepping up on a step stool to brush her teeth. And we get to, you know, through the book opening line, like there was a house with vines, 12 little girls, smallest one named Madeline. And then we get up to Miss Clavel, who is played by Frances McDormand, which is amazing.
I told you this the other day. I did not remember that. And she's so young. And I think
Hmm.
I've just everything I've seen her in, it's been so much later in life. And I did not even realize, was that like an early role for her?
I don't think it's that. I'm not sure. I don't know her discography much beyond like the Coen brother movies that she's in. But I feel like whenever I see her in a movie, she's like, you know, like a almost like cigarette mom kind of vibes, where she's like lived a hard
Not a
life.
nun. Not a
Yeah,
nun.
not a non taking care of children, and like her acting, like she was getting that money. She was there for the
Yes.
nominations for the Oscars. Like she did
Yes.
not get any, but I think
No.
maybe she should have. Like,
It was fantastic. She played the
yes.
role and she really brought it to life. Well done. Oscar
Yes.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Did you see the book that she was reading when she was going to bed that before she does her first?
Three Musketeers.
Yes, I
Yes.
was like at first I was like, let her be reading some like smutty book, like
Yes.
like a bodice ripper, and then it was Three Musketeers. I was like, boring, a French book about men.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I was kind of curious. Like I had to stop and look and say, oh, what is she reading?
Hmm. And then we get the first like breakaway from the book lines with the kids have their own lines. The kids also acting in this movie are like these are solid kid actors.
They did great. And most of them I don't think really have been in much since
I
or
think maybe one or two. I've their faces. I was like, do I recognize their faces from watching this movie so often, or did they get like extra parts or like random character's best friend kind of roles, you know? But when they're getting ready for bed during this like first time we're seeing their like day, um, I love the bit where one girl's like, it's a metaphor, like or like she says, oh, it's when Madeline is like really hot, right? Because she's burning up. And someone's like, it's a metaphor. And then the snooty blonde one is like Chantal is as thick as a plank. And the other girl goes, no, that's a simile.
I wrote that down. Yes. I busted out laughing. I was like, I don't remember this movie being so funny. Like, this is really
It's
clever.
a great movie. I just, oh my gosh, I loved it.
Yes.
Madeline is burning up. They have to take her to the ambulance. And I love that the whole time Madeline's like, my hat, my hat, my... and the girl rushes to get it. Think like a hat. And I remembered that bit from like my childhood, like think like a hat. And then they throw the hat and Miss Clement catches it. It's so fun. Um,
Yes.
when they're going to the hospital and Madeline like I forget her name, the actress, Hattie Jones, who plays Madeline, she's like, you know, crying, freaking out, scary going obviously for any kid going on an ambulance to the ER. But then Miss Clavel is like, repeat after me, I can do anything. And I was just like, pay Miss Clavel more money.
I know. She's underpaid, underappreciated.
Yes. I was like, I'm gonna cry. This is the second time, like the second time I almost cried in this movie. I didn't cry till the end, but like I almost cried a few times, and I was like, here was like, I could do anything.
I know. It was very sweet. Like there were definitely, I think, a few moments for me though. It was more of just like the nostalgia of all this. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this movie in so long, and like I
Yes,
remember some of it.
yes, it's definitely a
Yes.
nostalgia bomb. We have a first like big deviation is that Madeline is a ward of the church. So in the movie, she's an orphan, which makes way more sense to the plot, obviously, of how they change it. But I think I've watched this movie so much, I probably just rewrote the truth.
Yeah, with the book. Well,
Hmm.
and then so another thing too, I think this one's set in like the 50s, is what
Yes,
I
that's
was
yes.
gathering. Yeah.
Yeah, it's set in the 50s, and they purposely did that because it's easier to recreate 50s Paris than 30s Paris. And they also wanted to avoid any like having to refer to World War II in any way, which makes sense.
I think because the original book obviously was, I mean, that was right before the invasion of
Hmm.
Paris. And so I don't know how you would sidestep that that was going on. So it makes
Yeah.
sense. And I think
Yeah.
it's like, and the clothing too is fun. It's kind of like, the, fuller skirts and like all the little girls' outfits are cute and,
Hmm.
it makes sense. But that was something that I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I
This
did
is
look I did look up. I was like, before I like looked up what year it's supposed to be set in, I was like, what year were refrigerators like in every home? Which was like in the late 30s, FYI, in case you're wondering.
Well, I was just picking up on the fashion and the cars
Yeah.
because, like, there were some outfits that were very like Dior's new look kind of vibe, and then also the cars. I'm like, well, I don't think that's right
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
cars in the book were, or in the cartoons too. But
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So in the 50s, she's recovering and the kids, the girls come to visit, and Madeline, the drama queen that she is, pretends to be feeling sick. I love that. And then they explain the bed crank because in the book they say a bed with a crank. And I was like, as a kid, I was like, okay, there's a piece of metal on their bed and they're bragging about it. What does that mean? And then in the movie, when the girl cranks the bed and it moves it up and down, which makes sense. Um,
I see. I knew this though because when my sister was born, we went to visit my mom in the hospital, and my brother found what would be the modern equivalent of the buttons, and he was making my mom's bed like fold and stuff, like right after she'd given birth, mind you. A true monster. But so I
classic
kind
middle
of,
child.
classic middle child. So I think I kind of knew. I was like, oh, that must be like the equivalent because hospital beds are adjustable. Like I knew this. And so
Yeah,
I think that was always, I don't know. I put that together, I guess. Maybe that was the purpose of the crank. I don't know.
that makes sense. But like, I don't
Yes.
know. Even like when I was reading the book, I was like, I didn't really take time to think about it. I was like, I still don't get that crank thing. Oh
It's
well.
still a weird ad to like,
Yeah.
why does that matter? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But but I do like that little touch they add.
for sure.
Um and I also like how they're like they pulled out some guts. You're so lucky. And I was like, these kids. And then the whole time Miss Clavel is just rolling her eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love this. This is
Yes.
accurate.
Yes. Very,
Um
very cute.
Yeah, so this is like almost where the end of the book is, but they add a bit
Hmm.
here where Madeline sneaks out of her room to go visit Lady Covington, who was mentioned earlier in the movie, when Miss Clavel is praying. And so Lady Covington is the person who owns the school, and she's sick at the hospital. And Madeline goes to like talk to her, and Lady Covington tells Madeline that when she was young, she went to school, this went to that school and carved her name into the wall, and just like go find it. And then vibe killer Lord Covington comes in and yells at Madeline to get out. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Was she ever in a book? I don't remember that this character. This was created just for the movie. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Definitely. Um, and then the next scene is the rest of the girls pretending that they need appendixes out too. So like that's as far as like the book, the first the book that we were talking about, gets into the movie. And then it goes through the other books kind of interjecting different parts together. But as Madeline is getting taken home by Miss Clavel, we find out that Lady Covington died.
Like, oh, we have a character and they're gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and they're driving home, and we have the chef who is like a very French chef, and I love the chef.
I literally have in here, oh, this is so French.
It's so French. And there's a chicken in the back, and Madeline's like making friends with the chicken, and she's like, "This is what we're gonna eat for dinner." And this is like Madeline's, that classic first time a kid realizes, oh, animals alive, then animals dead, animals are food. Oh. And so the cook makes chicken Helen, which is her name, um, which is Madeline's favorite later, or is planning to, and Madeline's like, uh-oh, I don't know about that. But then also drama is next door. The Spanish ambassador moves in, and we have Pepito.
Pepito, which that was the moment I go, oh, they're combining books because I remember this character and I can't remember if I remember him from a book or from a cartoon, but it
Hmm.
like clicked right then. I'm like, right, I know what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah, and Pepito is like he's spoiled, he's a menace, he has a moped, he's loud, he is everything that the girls are not. And Madeline immediately hates him. He's a what she calls a bad hat, hence the book tie in there. And then we see like a photographer taking pictures of Pepito, like creepily.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this plot is going somewhere.
Yeah, I'm like, this is important, but I can't remember why.
Yeah. Like all the girls, not all of them, but most of the girls are like Google eyes over Pepito. And the one blonde girl is like, he has charisma.
It's like, what a random.
Like, okay, vocab.
Yeah. It's just like one of those things I feel like they're using a big word and they don't necessarily like sure, it's not that it's not the right use, but it is kind of a weird thing. Like no one's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm into him because he has charisma.
He has charisma. He is riding a moped next door and saying andale and like other vaguely Spanish words.
So like a lot of these kind of things that I was just like, do they have something against the Spanish? Because like they're pretty like stereotyped. I mean, they kind of stereotype the French too, but it was like very much stereotyped as like, oh, the Spanish are loud and they're, you know.
You can tell
Yeah.
this is an American-made movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah. All
Yeah.
of it's
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah. But then we have the dinner scene where Madeline names the chicken Fred that is cooked and tells the girls that she's not eating it because she's a vegetarian, and then half the girls refuse to eat, and that one blonde girl's like, I'm gonna eat anyways, and then they start balking while she's eating, and it's just like chaos. And Miss Clavel's sitting there just like deep breaths.
I don't get paid enough for this.
Exactly. She does not get
Yeah.
paid enough. Yeah. And of course, again, in comes Mr. Vibe Killer, Lord Covington, right when they're all balking, and he pulls Miss Clavel aside, and we have our other like big drama point that he has decided to close the school because he hates the school and the girls. And it was Lady Covington's whole thing, not his. We see Madeline finding Lady Covington's name carved in the wall, which I think is really sweet. And I think it's even like under her bed.
I guess it doesn't really show
It's in the
where
bedroom
it's in
somewhere.
the bedroom somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It never really it just shows that she finds it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
This scene I remember so well. The girls that had refused to eat chicken were sent to bed without dinner. And so Madeline gets them all to sneak down to the kitchen with her to cook food. And they're about to like make like there's some stinky cheese. They're like about to bake something. And then Pepito scares them with a creepy mask in the window. And like they throw flour and they scream. And then Madeline is like guard dog mode, like at the door, and it's like, yeah, back here. I'm
Yes. She's like
gonna
going after him and it's
Mhm.
like, hold me back.
Yeah. And of course they get caught. I love like not just like the acting of the Madeline Hattie Jones who does the acting, but like her character is like so it's like not overly done, like quote tomboy or like, not feminine and not like, tough kid. It's like a good amount of like she's just very loud and shameless.
Who she is.
Yeah.
And I also appreciate that the like adults in her life are, I mean, like Miss Clavel is exasperated. Like
Yeah.
she is overworked and underpaid, as we have said.
Hmm.
But it's also like she's not so strict that like the girls can't express their personalities. And like same with the cook, like she's like, oh my gosh, you just messed up my kitchen. But they're not like overly mean, like you have to go to bed with no food. And
Hmm.
it's not the same as like Annie, with the
Yes.
like the villain. Like the adult isn't the villain. We do
Yeah.
have our like our disapproving adult, of course.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
they call him?
Lord Cuckoo Face.
Cuckoo face. Yeah.
So after the Pepito incident, Miss Cobell is like, this boy needs to learn a trade. So she goes to gift Pepito and his family a toolbox so he can learn some skills. This is from the books. I looked it up. I was like, this is a weird thing. And we find out that there is a tutor there now. And if you're able to like connect the dots, it's obviously the photographer, depending on how much you paid attention as a kid. You may or may not have gotten that. And he has a tutor who's like vaguely almost American.
Yeah, the accent's a little odd.
The accents all around this movie are odd,
Yeah, that's true.
but it is what it is. We have the museum scene, which I also love, where they go and Miss Clavel is like passionately talking to the kids about this, like painting the Napoleon, and like, well, I want you to get so creative on the notepad, and like the girls all open the notepads. Like, I love how they filmed it too. It's like one after like dominoes, and it gets to Madeline, and she doesn't have it because she left it somewhere, which is like, of course, she accidentally left it.
Yeah, classic Madeline.
Yeah. So she goes off to go find it, and then Pepito happens to also be there and like spooks her, and I think gives her or writes in her notebook like a beware with like skull and crossbones.
I think it like kind of sets him up. I mean, he's kind of the, like he's always antagonizing the girls, and so it's just like another. Somewhere in here was they had. I just made a note of this because I liked the aesthetics, but they had all the yellow umbrellas.
Yes.
The girls, so like they've changed their uniforms, at least from the original book. They're all in yellow, and now I mean, the uniforms are super cute with like they're
The
more
blue.
French.
What is that like
Like
the shoulder cape?
A cape? I don't know. It's yeah. I can't think of the word.
The only word I'm thinking of is petticoat, and I know it's not petticoat.
Not petticoat. Not a pea coat. Not a. It'll come to us.
Yeah.
And then the dress is like a pinafore. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, yeah. So, but anyhow, like I noted that that was a change from the books, but then I felt like the yellow umbrellas was like all the little rows of yellow. It really tied in with the movie.
Yeah.
Or sorry, with the book to the movie.
I wonder if in the later books if they change it to blue, because like the dolls I have of Madeline, she had a blue like coat situation, cape situation. So I wonder if I mean, I think maybe I'm remembering from the cartoon that was on the Canadian PBS that was blue, if I'm remembering it right. I'm not sure, but I did like the umbrella part. And like whenever they're out and about in Paris, they are mimicking scenes from the book like as closely as they can, which is just so fun. They get invited to Pepito's 10th birthday party, and they go over, and his dad and his mom are like so loving and proud of him while also like ignoring him constantly. It's like a really weird dichotomy. They're like, he's perfect, he's done nothing wrong. Bye, we're going to dinner.
I felt bad for him, and then you kind of start to understand. You're like, oh, he acts out for attention because he's not getting enough attention from his parents. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and Miss Clavel sees this right away. Like, Miss Clavel is a fantastic teacher. Yeah. Like, as far as fictional teachers go, she's a good teacher. Like, she's actually trying to teach them stuff, but also she cares.
In the Miss Honey category, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Pepito is in a matador costume, which I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then Madeline's like, that's a costume. He's like, no, it's not. It's like the bravest people do it. I'm like, yeah, Madeline, it's a culture, not a costume.
Like, educate yourself, Madeline. Like,
yeah. And then he takes him out to essentially his reptile room, and he's trying to scare them with the reptiles and the mice. And Madeline, of course, is like, I'm not scared of mice, which again, from the book.
Yes, of course.
And then
she's a newfound vegetarian too.
Yes.
So
yes. And then he's like, well, you're not going to feed that live mouse to that snake. He's like, no, because I built a state-of-the-art guillotine. This is from the book. I looked it up. Like, he does that with the tools that Miss Clavel brings his family. He makes a guillotine.
It's very French.
He's trying to get into their culture.
Exactly. Weird part to go straight to, but why not?
Yeah. And then, Madeline and him wrestle and fight, and mice go everywhere. Just fun hijinks. Yes. Yeah. This is, again, like, I would argue Madeline is just French female Dennis the Menace. At some point, Madeline overhears the tutor talking to a clown. At some point.
We hear the plotting.
Yeah. And then she steals the moped's keys. And then they get in trouble, so they have to write lines of like, I will control my behavior or something like that. Which, classic old school. Um, and then we get them walking on the bridge when Madeline is like trying to like rouse the girls and like to get their revenge on Pepito, and she's getting impassioned, and she starts walking on the edge of that railing.
Which we had in the book, it kind of
Hmm.
ties that back in, but also you're just like, oh, I know where
Yeah.
this is going, of
Hmm.
course.
And then she falls in, and then we have this really beautiful blonde golden retriever or lab looking thing rescues her. I do remember thinking when I was in Paris and we were walking over some of those bridges, thinking to myself, this is where Madeline fell in. Like, that's the one thing I remembered.
I can't remember what bridge that is. I know it's a famous one, and I can't remember which one it is because I recognized it, and then I was like,
Yeah.
I got nothing.
With all the
It's gone.
gold stuff
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
I don't, it's not
I've been
enough,
there.
but I'm like, I've been there. I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah. I don't speak
Doing great.
French.
Yes. But yes, it's a famous one, and it's in like all the movies. But I like that they include it in the movie, because if you're gonna do a bridge in Paris, like, why not do a famous one?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
great. But she
But
does fall into the Seine, which is like gross.
and I was thinking, I was like, they didn't clean this end versus the the when they did for the
No.
Olympics.
Yeah, it's not clean.
No.
You just know, like, she splashed around there and you're like, oh no.
I do know, but like I was trying to find like behind the scenes like press videos, for this. There wasn't many still on the internet. But one I found with the interview of her, the actress, she talks about how she's like, I wasn't really in the Seine. Instead, I was in a pool and they put chocolate powder in the water to make it look dirty. And I was
It
like,
worked. It
okay,
looked great.
it did. It looked gross.
Yeah.
Did a great
Oh
job.
man.
Yeah. But she's staying in bed while the girls go out because of course she's probably sick. The dog somehow
Something awful
finds her.
from the river.
Yeah, I hope she didn't
Yes.
get like a poop disease.
Dysentery, something.
At least pink eye.
At least she's definitely going to be in bed for a while after that one. Like,
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh, yeah.
Um, but the
Um,
dog miraculously finds the house.
this dog has a collar. I
Uh-huh.
just, as a note, like,
Hmm.
and a name, Genevieve.
Well, I think she names it Genevieve.
Oh, she names it
I think
Genevieve.
so.
So, but it has a collar, so I kind of had some questions about
Yeah.
that.
I think it was just like to help with handling the dog.
Sure, yeah.
But like you could have made the collar not like blue or black, instead of make it like a white or a similar color to her fur.
Something that looks like, oh, maybe it broke loose, but this just kind of
Yeah.
looks like they stole someone's pet. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's fine.
Hey, it's the 50s. Wild, wild west of Paris.
No, probably not.
But of course, dogs are not supposed to be there, and so she has to hide the dog. And of course, while she's there, Lord Covington is showing the house to potential buyers. So it's a really fun scene of Madeline and the dog like hiding in the room, trying to stay away from Lord Covington. But those buyers love the house, but then they end up backing out due to Pepito being loud, because at their last place there was a loud child next door and it ruined 5 years of their life.
You know, something you don't understand as a child, something you can appreciate as an adult.
You're not wrong. It's like when you move into an apartment and then the upstairs neighbors have kids and you just hear feet constantly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can understand. I can appreciate it,
Yes.
Yeah. That's fair.
That night, Madeline tells,
She carves her name under Marie's.
Yes. Yeah, she carves her name under Marie's, and she tells the girls that Covington is trying to sell the school. And then they also try to hide the dog, but Clavel is allergic to dogs. So of course she knows with the dog there, but she lets them keep the dog in the garden house.
So also the scene, like when they're in the bathroom, when
Mhm.
I don't know, I wrote down, because I thought it was so funny when the little girl's like, I'm gonna be burned at the stake one day, or I can't remember what the conversation was, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
They give these kids like really funny lines and they deliver them really well, but in the way
So
that you're
well.
like, this kid probably doesn't know what that means.
Exactly. I know. That one I just busted out laughing. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
The like Joan of Arc conversation. Yeah.
Yes, that was it was the Joan of
Yeah.
Arc conversation.
Yeah. I'm gonna be burned at the stake one day.
To make sure that the house does not sell, the kids start slightly taking apart the house. Like they put stinky cheese in a room, they take the door off its hinges, like they're just trying to make sure that everything
Giving
goes
Home
wrong.
Alone kind of like, I don't know.
Yes. Yes. Madeline is seen talking to Pepito and the cook and Clavel are like, oh, they're getting along finally. But really we're like, oh, she's asking him to act out. And he ends up putting off
This is part
fireworks.
of the plot.
Yes. I also like how they're like singing a nice song as this all happens. You know, they're walking through the house, stuff is falling apart. I just thought it was really fun, like again, like you said, very Home Alone, you know.
I feel like also the like the diplomats, again, very stereotyped for all the
Hmm.
different cultures they're representing. You're kind of like, okay, I get it. It's a kids thing. It's also a little like over the top on some of those.
Yeah, it absolutely, yeah. Lord Covington then is
Like,
like tells Clavel, here, send all the parents notices that if we have a buyer or not at the end of term, we're closing the school. And then she's like, well, you're not gonna be Madeline's because she doesn't have parents. And he's like, okay. We also have Madeline calls um him Lord Cuckoo Face to his face,
did
which
not go over well.
yeah. And this is when he's leaving, he steps in dog poop, and then he takes the dog and like makes the dog run away, which is like so mean.
I love her line, Genevieve, noblest dog in France, you'll have your vengeance. It's like so dramatic and also adorable.
It's so cute.
Yes.
And the next day the girls go on a hunt throughout Paris looking for this dog. Um, and at one point Madeline sits down and Clavel sits next to her and Clavel's like, we must keep the faith. And Madeline's like, I'll have parents.
Yeah, literally. She's like, all of them have parents. Like, this is it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've hoped and prayed for that. And guess what? It didn't happen. And Clavel's like, well, you're not wrong. But it
Yeah.
goes from like cute, adorable kids running around Paris to like serious. And Clavel says, oh, I don't like to herself. She's like, okay, I need to cheer them up. We didn't find the dog. Also, Madeline just told me some like really sad stuff about her trauma. Let's go to a carnival. Yeah.
This childhood trauma, circus.
Hmm. Sure.
Perfect.
Yeah. And this part is where like the book Madeline and the Gypsies kind of comes in. It's not obviously they don't get kidnapped in that book. In the book, they her and Pepito do get left behind because of a rainstorm and they end up becoming part of the circus for a little bit.
See, that's why I could not remember how that went.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different from this, but you know, they have a really grand fun time and like this 50s French style circus carnival. It's fun. You know, they're eating stuff, they're on a Ferris wheel, and then we have Pepito and his family are watching clowns who we kind and the tutor's also there. And like throughout the movie we see like bits of the tutor being like nefarious, but it is subtle.
Kind of see, like, we see, like, oh, this, we recognize this clown,
Hmm.
which is just an, like, why is he dressed as a clown while he's meeting with him in the library? That seems, I know it's a children's, it's,
And like the
I'm
whole
just
joke of the
saying.
clowns is they're called the idiots and like they keep making dumb choices. So when even when they're not doing their clown act. So like it is part of the like
Thing. I know. I was just like,
yeah.
I had that thought in there. I was just like, wait, why was he dressed as a clown? Like, he could have just not, and then he wouldn't be recognized later as, yes,
Yeah.
thinking too hard into it.
Yeah. While at the circus, Madeline tells her friend, her buddy, that she is running away with the circus because when the school closes, she doesn't have anywhere to go to, so she might as well go to the circus. And her friend agrees to lie with for her. And so Madeline's like running away, so in trying to find like going through all these like you see the creepy carnies, you know, and she's like going through like the between the carts and the tents and stuff. But then she sees Pepito's tutor trying to shove Pepito into a car or truck. And so she goes to like stop him, but she's like, I'm gonna tell Miss Clavel. And he's like, okay, and I'm gonna kidnap you, kid.
A terrible plan. Like, what were you? Yeah, like you could
Yeah.
have just hid behind something and then ran to get Miss Clavel, like confronting him. But this also comes back to her being like fearless and
Yeah.
brave, and maybe not always, you know, the
Yeah.
brightest in terms of
Very impulsive.
self-preservation.
Yeah.
Impulsive, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And so as the kids are on the bus, I love the trick the friend does when she holds up the hat.
She gets counted.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they get kidnapped, and it is until that night where they realize they've been kidnapped. And so Miss Clavel goes back to the circus to see Pepito's parents talking to the police officer, and he's no help, because of course not. And so, but also the dog is there, and the dog is barking in a direction. So Clavel puts the dog with her in the car and like follows the dog's instructions down the road.
Suddenly, this is a search dog and is trained to follow scent.
Yeah,
Sure, why not?
yeah, yeah. Why not?
This is a very talented
Paris is
street dog.
magical.
Yes, of course.
And so she's driving, and then they're kidnapped like through, like they're stuck there through the night. But Madeline wakes up to herself repeating in her head that I can do anything. And I was like, oh, that's such good writing to have that way at the beginning and then way at the end. I love. I love. And they're able to escape because there's juggling knives that they left in there. And they're able to cut the rope, and then there's also a motorcycle. And earlier the tutor had taught Pepito how to start a motorcycle without keys. And so Madeline's, you can do this. And so they end up being able to drive the motorcycle, which is different from a moped.
And also
And
very different than just riding a moped around your yard.
yeah, like through the like Parisian backwood roads.
Yeah, it's fine. Just
Yeah.
don't think too hard.
But we have a fun car chase, and the big truck ends up getting going into the lake, and right when Clavel finds them. And so uh then they get home, but Lord Covington's there, and Madeline confronts him as he's showing the house to the another ambassador couple. And I love how her confrontant is like, I know you're lonely, and that's why you're trying to get rid of this. And he's like, you're right. Now I won't sell it.
Of course, it all makes sense now that
Yeah.
you've said these, few sentences to me. I've completely changed my mind.
Yeah. But he's like, but I already sold it to the ambassador. And so then he asks the man, and he's like, the man's like, I'm not the ambassador. And we're like, yeah, a lady could be a politician too.
Yeah,
It's the
was it the
50s.
ambassador of Uzbekistan? I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I liked that was like the little plot twist there. She's like, actually, and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
yes,
Feminism.
yes. It's like you go.
And then she's like, yeah, you can keep your school. And then they all celebrate. And we have them running around, I forget which gardens, but with it's What a Wonderful World playing. And it
Yes,
goes
that was really
back to
cute.
and it goes back to the drawings, and that's when I cried.
Yes, it was very sweet.
It's so
Yes.
sweet. Did you listen to the song during the end credits?
A little bit, yeah. I was like, I did not remember there being a song for this movie.
So this song is for the movie. It's called In Two Straight Lines, and it's by Carly Simon.
Oh. Okay,
So
I don't know if it's her best work as a song, but that's really funny. Yeah, we were starting to listen to it and I'm like, I did not remember this at all. No.
yeah, I know. Like I gave it a listen, like on Spotify later, or maybe I found it on YouTube. I forget, but I recommend listening to it. It's just essentially the book, but a song. It's fun. It's not her best. I agree. Um, but fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, and that's the movie, and I love it.
It's really cute. It's really well done. I feel like it's on the same plane as like Matilda or some of the other ones that I think were just like very successful adaptations. I guess I'm
Yes.
answering the question too early, but
Yeah. Is it a good adaptation? Answer it, Delaney, go.
Yes, I think it is. I think and it uses all of the books, or at least a lot of them. And I think it's, watching it from a nostalgic point of view, I think it's great.
Hmm. I think
5 stars.
I agree. Like it is not just like nostalgic, but also like it has like a cozy, comforting vibe, like Matilda does. It keeps the heart of the books while adding to it, and the world is still vibrant, and the characters, like the kid acting is great. Frances McDormand is amazing. The actress who plays Helen, the chef, also fun. Like I it is so good. Like the only thing I don't like about it is that it's like it has that effect of on American movies where that I love, but I also am like about is that there's like a bunch of European accents and they're all supposed to be the same, but they're not.
They kind of, if we are trying to go for accuracy, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
That's
sure.
the one downfall, but like also it's a kids movie, like,
So it's going to be silly. And like, obviously, I never noticed as a kid.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this movie. A couple little fun facts. This was filmed mostly in Paris. Like they filmed as much as they could, which is obvious when you're watching it, but so I thought that was fun that they didn't, go cheap and do green screens or anything like that. Like it's act, which I think really adds to this movie's the dimension of it is actually being in Paris. And then Hattie Jones, who plays Madeline, she did some TV acting later on, but this is the only film credit she has. But she also auditioned for Hermione, and she and Emma Watson were the last two, but they chose Emma Watson because she's closer to the correct age at the time than Hattie Jones was. And like during the movie, I was like, she does seem very like Hermione, like her way she talks was very Hermione.
I could see it. I could see it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's hard to imagine anyone else playing that
Yeah.
role, but yeah, that is interesting. I did not know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I was like, that's really cool, little like fact. But I love this movie. I think it's great. I'm so glad I found it for $5 at Walmart with Matilda and Annie and the good Annie.
That's a steal.
It
Yeah.
was a score. It was a score. But yeah. Um, but yeah, I I love this movie. And I think I will. No, I won't maybe check out the other books, but I might just go hang out in the kid book section at the library for 10 minutes and read them.
I did feel a little silly like going and checking it out. And I was like, it's for a podcast. Because like, yeah, I don't know.
Small
I
town
was like,
libraries, they know you.
yes. They're kind of like, yeah, whatever. I didn't care.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I was like, can I check this one out? Like I can take this. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, thank you. Okay. But yes.
Yeah.
I did not watch, because my favorite
Hmm.
was the cartoon Madeline Lost in Paris.
Hmm.
Was that a book or was that just like one they did as a cartoon movie?
That
I
there's no
don't,
book. There's no
did you
book
ever
with that
watch that?
title. I'm gonna look because oh, Madeline Lost in Paris. That
Remember
looks
it?
familiar.
Yeah, so she ends up like getting like not maybe kidnapped, and she ends up in like a basement making lace. That's like
Child
one
labor?
child labor, and I feel like Pepito is somehow involved in her rescue or something, but I haven't watched it, so I'm still trying to figure out. I was like, I know this is not a fever dream, but
The Madeline books are Madeline, Madeline's Rescue, Madeline and the Bad Hat, Madeline and the Gypsies, Madeline in London, where they go visit Pepito because he gets sent to boarding school there. Um, Madeline's Christmas, and then Madeline in America was written by his grandson, I believe.
I just
Because
found
Madeline,
the VHS that I
nice.
definitely owned. Yes, so that was, I think it was just maybe it looks like it's a Disney
Okay.
production, so maybe like Disney took over and did their own little.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it because I think it actually was a lot darker than I realized as a child.
I mean, if she's making lace in a basement, that's child
With
labor.
it's like all these other little kids, and then like I know a bunch of them had their hair cut off as like punishment, and it is like pretty dark, like actually. So
It's on like I looked on the streaming and it's on like Tubi, that like random app, and I'm like, that's like something you can do like a free trial. And I'm like, "Hmm." Yeah, but thanks, Delaney. Anything you
Of
want to
course.
shout out or anything? I saw you doing birds of the week. Or
Yes, I just posted the first one because I have a lot of bird photos and it's hard to try to work it in. So I'm gonna be posting birds of the week at least until the summer because then everything,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So out to
fun.
sea expeditions, you can
Yeah,
go look at bird of the week. We'll see if I meet my goal of actually posting every week.
yeah. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. If you want to rate us 5 stars, 5 stars only. No other stars. Thank you. Share the podcast with your friends. Follow us on Instagram at Read the Book First Podcast. I've been posting lots of fun things there. The schedule for the rest of season 3 is out with the books we're reading. I don't remember the dates I put that, so go check on Instagram because that's where the correct information will be. Thank you for listening, and remember, read the book first.